The Breeders' Cup is just days away. Preparations are serious. This year's Kentucky Derby winner, California Chrome, out on the racetrack. Maybe next year's Kentucky Derby winner was out this morning, American Pharaoh. All with the beautiful surroundings at Santa Anita in Arcadia, California, host of the Breeders' Cup once again for the third consecutive year, the 31st running of the Breeders' Cup. Welcome to the TVG studios in Los Angeles. When it comes to American Pharaoh, well, he has ruled the 2-year-old division out in California, and now we welcome in kind of our Cleopatra of the social media world.
Wow, that is such a compliment.
Pretty good, huh?
Yes, that was a good one to start off the show.
And I know there's a lot of people who'd like to be the Mark Anthony to your Cleopatra, but speaking of American Pharaoh, he has been awesome. Here's Brittany Erden.
Just unreal, and obviously we focused on yesterday in our public work of the day, but today, as Todd mentioned, we're going to be focusing on Breeders' Cup juvenile contender American Pharaoh, or as Bob Baffert likes to call him, No Tail. So if you want to get involved, use the hashtag TVGWorks.
And once again, we'll be the judges panel. We'll be here on the couch reviewing the workouts, grading these workouts, and a lot of live ones this morning. Simon Bray alongside former jockey Donna Barton Brothers and current trainer Tom Amoss, who has the best win percentage of any trainer in North America. 32%, Amoss. Pretty
impressive.
Good. Thank you. Very impressive. Teamwork.
Actually, it dropped to 31% after the recent Keeneland Fall meet. The Works Breeders' Cup 2014, presented by Remington Park, starts right now. A very busy morning. Let's get to a work that happened moments ago in the Breeders' Cup Sprint Division. We're looking at Secret Circle out at Santa Anita.
Yeah, watching this for the first time, half mile. First thing to note here, this horse is working on his own, solo, not in company with Indianapolis as he did last week. And as we mentioned, Secret Circle moments ago at Santa Anita, a half mile here with jockey Martin Garcia aboard.
And as you know, this is the defending champ of the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He won this race last year. He had a bullet work just last week. We watched him work 6 furlongs from the gate in company with Indianapolis. We expect for this to be a maintenance move. It looks like a nice maintenance move to me right now.
Secret Circle turning for home here, Donna. Look how his tail is positioned. It's kinked out behind, a little bit higher and stuck out than it should be, but that's been him all along, even last year before he got ready to run the Breeders' Cup, so I'm not going to fault him for that. Watching him down the lane here, he's very eager, off the rail to keep his speed in check, ears forward, hands very still with the rider. Guys, I like what I see.
I mean, especially out of that work. That was like a prep race that he had last week, that work out of the gate. Secret Circle, a half mile at Santa Anita. Nice workout there coming into the Breeders' Cup. He's obviously got some issues. He only had 4 races in the last 2 years, but when he shows up, they're good efforts. Okay, his stablemate from last week, Indianapolis, working here moments ago for trainer Bob Baffert. Mike Smith aboard.
Lightly raced 3-year-old Colt here. Only had 3 starts. This will be his 4th start in the Breeders' Cup. You'll notice that workmate alongside as we watch them head to the pole and go off.
That's him in behind there with jockey Mike Smith. Looks like he's got some company here today. And a little different, instead of being heads up, Donna, he's sitting off his workmate today.
And you know, like Secret Circle, this horse is making his 2nd start off of an 8-month layoff. So we saw them get their tightener in them last week when they went 6 furlongs from the gate together. Again, we're expecting a maintenance move here, but apparently they think that this horse needs a little bit of a target in front of him. He is lightly raced though, right, Tom?
Yeah, and I think that's the key here, Donna. Lightly raced, giving him as much experience as possible before facing the heavy heads in the Breeders' Cup. This is him down the lane on the outside, Donna. Once again, good stride. You can see he's being asked. So this is a different kind of work where the stablemate on the inside is not being asked at all. He grudgingly pulls away from this horse. Coming into this race, I think I'd like to see a little bit better. If I had to grade the 2 Baffert horses that are running the sprint, I like Secret Circle better.
All right, let's find out the final time from our on-site correspondent at Santa Anita, Joaquin Hummy. What's the final time, Joaquin?
Indianapolis, 22-4, 4 furlongs, 45-4. Secret Circle, guys, 46-4 for a half mile.
All right, with those times that we now know, how would you grade those horses real quick?
Think about it in perspective. You have one that worked by himself. He's not going to work as quick, eager, and did very, very well. The workmate in Indianapolis, maybe not as much as you would like to have seen.
All right, here's Private Zone moments ago. Same division, Breeders' Cup Sprint for trainer Alfredo Marquez, coming off a win in the Vosper He's a very aggressive horse in the afternoon, and he's a very quick horse as well.
And this is a horse also coming off of a bullet work. He worked also from the gate last week in 109-2. So again, you're expecting a maintenance move. They've put him in company with another horse. He's making his third start off of a 10-month layoff, but you can see right now the rider has a lot of horse under him. He's going maybe even a little bit faster than the rider wants him to go as he keeps him wide out off that fence, Tom.
Yeah, he does indeed. And you know, this is our third contender we watched this morning in the sprint division. And watching those three horses, one thing you notice about Private Zone, he carries his head a little higher, thus the need for that blue shadow roll over his nose to keep his head down. Watching these horses come to the wire, Private Zone looks very good.
Looks very, very good. I talked to Martin Pedrosa after his win in the Vosper. He said, we will win the Breeders' Cup. All right, grades for Private Zone.
I give him an A.
A for Donna.
I give him a B. He did everything right.
Yeah, I'll give him a B+. I'm going to split the difference. Joaquin, what's the final time? Maybe that'll change our opinion.
Your Vosburg winner started off 24-3, 4 furlongs, 49 out, 5 furlongs, 102-1. And now, guys, we'll go ahead and move on to the third place finisher in the Vosburg, Palace.
Palace coming onto the track moments ago. Claim of the year, or at least the last 2 years, claim for $20,000 has made over $1.3 million in earnings for Linda Rice. Disappointing effort last time out in the Vosper. I guess he was third behind Private Zone, so maybe it wasn't as disappointing. What do we make of this work as we watch it for the first time?
So I think the difference between Palace and particularly the horse we just watched in Secret Circle as well as Indianapolis and Private Zone is that he's not as big in stature. He's a little bit smaller horse. Getting around there good. I like his eagerness in this work to this point, Donna.
And another horse coming off of a bullet work last week. He worked in 59-4 at Belmont last week, so he shipped in recently. Again, we're going to be looking for a maintenance move here. This is maybe his first trip over the Santa Anita Strip. He might have galloped here once already, but I think that he looks like he's well in hand. I like the way he's responding to the rider. You can see he's asked him to pick it up a little bit, and he has picked it up a little.
And I think that's important, Donna. This horse is being urged a little bit, but look at those ears to the wire. He's willing to do more than that. I'm going to pet you guys. This is a quick work.
Yeah, I think it is. Joaquin, what is the final time?
Our blocker, Donald Harris, got Palace starting off his quarter in 23-2, half miles, 46-2, galloped out 5/8, 59-3.
Very quick work. Nice final time
Particularly
there.
being on his own as he was.
Yep.
More in the Breeders' Cup Sprint Division. Seeking the Sheriff was out Sunday morning at Santa Anita. 4 furlongs the distance. Baltazar Contreras aboard.
Yeah, this is a gate work. This is an aggressive work. 4 furlongs out of the gate, 47-2. And Seeking the Sheriff does exactly in this work what he does in his races, and that's to go to the lead. He likes to be a front runner. Again, he was a horse who was claimed for 12-5. He's been masterfully managed by trainer Ron Ellis, and I like this work early on.
Yeah, you know, I think the reason for the gate here, Donna, would be perhaps in the last work that we watched in one of the earlier shows. You know, he was one of those horses that kind of shuts it down at the wire. I think the gate encourages him to do more in his work, and he certainly looks like he does it here.
Yeah, and his work last week was a long work. It was a 3/4 of a mile work. I believe it was a bullet work, so we do expect for him to have a little bit of an easier work here, kind of a sharpener away from the starting gate. If you look back on his form, you can see that he was squeezed back at the start. 3 starts back, they just want to make sure he's sharp away from the gate.
Yeah,
And
this
he's
work
done-
is over right
Yeah.
now. I mean, they're up. So we're talking about a little half-mile work, and oftentimes from the gate, you're not always working to the wire because that would be a 6 furlong work, and that's a lot to ask of a horse this close to the race, 6/8 of a mile. So we're looking at a work here that's only a half-mile in distance. These riders are up and coasting to the wire. I thought a very good sharpener here.
I did as well. And if you look back in his workout tab, he did this move on the 29th of August at Del Mar, so it's not untoward for him to work out the gate prior to a big race. Final time, 47-2.
Remington Park is not just the presenting sponsor of the Works Breeders' Cup 2014 on TVG. They have horses who have prepped for the Breeders' Cup there. Here's a look at your Remington Park Sprint Cup winner, Miko Margarita, out this morning.
Yeah, we're watching this for the first time. Steve Asmussen, trainee that's been kind of campaigned around the Midwest. Hasn't taken on the major sprinters in this division. Maybe an up-and-comer with a 2-race win streak, and again, a typical Asmussen work.
And Simon, I keep pointing out what they did last week because we expect that their real strong works were last week and that the maintenance moves are this week. This is a horse who went in 58-4 right here at Santa Anita last week, second best of 42 works at the distance. This is a maintenance move as I would expect from an Asmussen horse.
Right, and there's a lot of ways to train a horse, guys. So we've seen the way Baffert's done it with a couple of horses that he's trying to catch up with in Indianapolis, and this is a different kind of horse here, Micro Margarita. This is a horse that's just going to go around there in hand See, the rider's very, very quiet on this horse. The time is going to be slower, but that doesn't mean he's a slower horse, guys. I mean, that's the whole idea behind this works program. Look at him coming to the wire, very eager, ready to go. This is going to be closer to 49 seconds than any of those other works we've seen, which is actually 10 lengths slower. But that doesn't mean it's a 10 lengths slower horse.
Right, it's just by design. And I think if you put this horse next to Tapature, next to Untappable, all of Asmussen's horses that work an easy half mile into a race look the same. So fairly easy work. You'd be happy with that effort there, Donna?
Yeah, absolutely. You could see Carlos Rosas looking at his watch the whole time. He was happy, I'm happy.
Simon, I want to ask the panel, though, does the running style for a horse dictate how they're going to work the horse? In other words, Miko Margarita is a one-run type. He comes from far back into sprint races. So are you going to have a workout where he's finishing up strong versus some of these other horses who get out early?
I'll let the trainer answer that.
Well, I think the beginning part of the work has a lot to do with the time, and speed horses and horses that lay close, like, say, a horse in Indianapolis, are going to make a very flattering time because they're going the opening quarter very, very quick, and of course that's part of the work. But a horse like Miko Margarita is a horse that comes from well off the pace. He's not going to have that early energy or quickness. That's not his style. So the work is not going to look as flattering on final time, but it can look just as flattering in talent as we just saw.
Well, and as Tom pointed out, that's the beauty of the work. So you get to see it yourself and decide for yourself. Another part to our show that we enjoy is getting your opinion. Let's get back to our public work of the day with Brittany Urton.
Thanks, Todd. Yes, we've obviously looked at the dirt mile division. We looked at the mile division. Now we're going to focus on the Breeders' Cup Juvenile division. And our horse in the focus today is American Pharaoh. Now, if you want to get involved and you didn't see the work yesterday, you can go to our YouTube channel, TVG Network, and check it there. And we'll also be showing it on the work show in just a moment. So we want to hear what you guys have to say. So use the hashtag TVGWorks. Give us your letter grade and your analysis, and it might come here live on TV. But like I said, if you need to check it out, go to our YouTube channel, or we'll be showing it in just moments.
Let's get to the work from yesterday, and the idea was American Pharaoh would work in company, maybe work behind a horse, but essentially this unraced 2-year-old trying to keep up with American Pharaoh, it didn't happen.
No, and that's because American Pharaoh is just too much the best here. Look, I've been extremely impressed with this horse. I mean, if you're watching this work without knowing who he is, you might think he's an older horse going in the classic division looking at him. He's very mature for his age. He's got all the right attributes. He's a very fluid mover. You go into a sale, he's going to bring a top dollar with the way he moves, his conformation. I mean, he's an A student.
He is an A student. I mean, a horse that's been on the lead in all of his races, but with that work made alongside of him, American Pharaoh shows he can rate. He's going very quietly right now. He's not fighting the rider. You can see the cotton in his ears. You see that on the left side. You see that white little bit in his ear. That's cotton in his ears. I don't know if that's going to be the plan to run him with the cotton in his ears, but despite that, this horse looks fantastic. Huge stride and finishing well.
And so far, he's proven to be the best 2-year-old on the West Coast, at least racing-wise. So we expect for him to blow Lamu away, which he does here, especially when they hit the wire. He just distances himself. But is he going to be able to beat the East Coast's Carpet DM and Daredevil?
Yeah, it's a very strong matchup, one of the most anticipated races outside of the Classic this year. American Pharaoh blitzing his workmate in a final time of a minute flat. Grades, Donna?
Oh, I thought that was an A.
Tom?
That's a definite A, a horse that's a possible single on tickets.
Yeah, I gave that horse an A+. I thought that was one of the most outstanding works we've seen all week. American Pharaoh looking to give Bob Baffert another win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
When we have a lot of works on this show, there's a lot of lobbying behind the scenes from our analysts about what work should make the show. Simon, you lobbied to see Lucky Player, one of the horses here in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. What'd you like so much about Lucky Player?
Well, I like the way his performances in the afternoon have impressed at the 2-turn distance. When he's got out of the sprint division, he's really improved as he's gone long. The longer, the better for him. He's by looking at Lucky, who, you know, a Breeders' Cup sprint went out of a Stormcat mare. But again, trained by Steve Asmussen. And this horse, like I said, they're repeat. All the Asmussens look the same here in their final works to me.
Yeah, but this is his final work. This horse is going to be looking at 2 months between races. He's had 3 solid 5/8 mile drills. And in fact, the last one was here at Santa Anita in 59-3. So again, we're looking for a maintenance move here, but I love his energy and his presence in this work, Tom.
I completely agree with you, Donna. This horse is moving across the track very, very well. Simon, you point out what the Asmussen horses do close into a race, and we've certainly seen enough of them on this show over the last 3 days. This is an identical work to those others. Easy in hand, designed to maintain a level of mental fitness. It doesn't have him too high or too low. Comes to the wire in good shape.
And by the way, this is a gorgeous 2-year-old.
Yeah, very good looking horse. He jumps to his left
right
leg.
here.
Yeah, right
at the wire. It goes right back.
I think it's green. It's right there. Goes right back.
So yeah, that's a mental error.
Yeah.
But being by himself, perhaps losing interest in the work, no big deal.
We forgive mental errors, Tom. You make plenty of them every day.
Poor Tom Amoss. He's already been beaten up on this show, and we still have halfway to go. Let's turn our attention to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies. While the Breeders' Cup Juvenile has a trio to focus in on, it really does look like anybody's race for the fillies in here as you look at the large field that has been assembled. And let's start with Christina's Journey. She won the Pocahontas last time out at Churchill Downs. Her record right now is 2 for 2, but she has that important experience around 2 turns, and this is a look at Christina's Journey going 5 furlongs on Saturday at Santa Anita. Tammy Fox up. We pick it up down the stretch.
Yeah, not long to see her here, but I tell you, I lobbied for this workout. I was very impressed with her, the way she moves. Beautiful filly, low to the ground, easy stride.
Yeah, very nice. Lengthy stride, not ass through the lane. We're starting to see a pattern here in these works as we get close to the races. Easy works,
Watch
the horses
this right
showing
here.
their fitness.
The way she jumps into the bridle as soon as Tammy stands up on her. Now go ahead.
Yeah, watch this.
Why don't we let her go ahead? She's doing it all.
I mean, this is, look, she switches to a left lead, and right here, we've seen a lot of horses shut down after the wire. Look at her. You're exactly right, Donna. The further she goes, the stronger she goes, and that's indicative of a race record. She went a mile and a 16th last time. I think this is a sleeper. I don't know what price she's going to be, Breeders' Cup Day, but I think it's a very interesting filly.
Yeah, she's 2 for 2 right now. She could be 3 for 3 after the Breeders' Cup.
You watched her at Churchill. You think
I
she's
did.
legit?
When she broke her maiden race, I wasn't so sure about her. I thought she maybe dominated a weak bunch, but I loved her second start. I thought it was very, very good.
Yeah, consensus selection here. I think she's going to go into the race in good order, Todd. Christina's Journey, one to watch in the juvenile.
On the subject of good order, Tonalist has put it together ever since that win in the Belmont over California Chrome. Comes in off a win in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. 13 Grade 1 races over 2 days in the Breeders' Cup, highlighted by the Breeders' Cup Classic on Saturday. And when we return, we'll talk about key players in the Breeders' Cup Classic, starting with Tonalist, your Belmont and Jockey Club Gold Cup winner.
Tonalist between horses. California grown, wavering late. Here's the wire, and it's a photo finish that goes to Tonalist.
Welcome back to the Works Breeders' Cup 2014, presented by Remington Park. For Tonalist, it was a huge moment in the spring, stopping the Triple Crown run of California Chrome by taking the Belmont. And then it wasn't the best of summers as he went to Saratoga with some subpar performances. But he came back in the fall with a big effort at Belmont Park, and all indications are he's going to be a factor in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Let's take a look at his most recent work, which was in New York at Belmont Park, and get some thoughts from our analysts.
Yeah, this was back on Saturday morning, his final work before he shipped, and Tonalist, to me, the one thing you can take about this work is the way he looks physically. Great condition. He's not a flashy workhorse. It wasn't a flashy work, but we're just trying to see how he looks after a tough campaign with the Belmont, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and he's hitting the ground well. And like we said, it's just a matter of how he's going to handle the tight turns. His best races have been on those big, wide, sweeping turns at Belmont. He comes to Santa Anita on Tuesday, and I think he looks in great, great order. A horse who's really developing in the second half of the year. Shared Belief, going to be one of his main contenders, probably go postward as the favorite in the Classic, Donna.
Yeah, and here we're watching just the stretch run. That's him coming through on the inside. I want to talk about the splits in here. He went in 13, 25 and 2, 37 and 1, 49 and 3, 102 and 3, 114 and 2. The internal fractions equate to a 13, a 12 and a 2, a 12 and a 1, a 12 and a 2. Now he slows down to a 13, but then in that last eighth of a mile, he picks it up to an 11 and 4, and that's what we like. We like to see this strong finish and a nice gallop out. That's why we like the work.
Let's expand on those fractions a little bit more, Donna. When you're talking about those, the first set of numbers you gave were like after the opening quarter, the half mile, the 3/4. Then the internal fractions you're talking about, that's the eighth of a mile times, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have explained that. And you like to see him go 12, 12, 12, and 12, but like I said the other day, ideally, they go like 12 and 2, and then 12 and 1, and then 12, and then 11 and 4 at the end is very nice, especially after a 5/8 mile work like that. So I love the fact that after that kind of a drill, he finished up with an 11 and 4 and a nice gallop out.
Yeah, for the folks at home, I think it's important to say 12s. Horses that do 8s and 12s, that's equivalent to a very good work. When you shade a 12, particularly at the end of a work, that's a real positive sign.
So 3/8 in 36, a half mile in 48.
There you go.
5/8 in a minute. That's 12,
Right.
12, 12.
That's a
furlongs
goal.
at 112.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. California Chrome, Tom, let's talk about him. You know, he had the little bump in the radar in his last race, but as we've watched his last couple of works, he seems to be coming into the Classic in much better order.
So we've talked about him moving a little bit better over the track when he first gets to the track, loosening up better, and his work's being very good. But one thing we haven't mentioned is California Chrome's weight. So I was in the barn with him at the Preakness this year, and the races had taken a toll on him. He had lost weight, he had gotten skinny. Looking at him now, he has regained that weight. This is a horse I think you're going to see the best of California Chrome on Saturday.
Bigger question is, what were you doing at the Preakness?
I asked my owner that afterwards, too.
Oh. California Chrome, that was him working. He was out at Santa Anita. He took a 5 a.m. van ride yesterday morning from Los Alamitos. Took about an hour to get to Santa Anita. And this is him this morning. I always say the most important part of a work is the day after. What do you guys think here jogging?
Well, we saw him actually more than just this. It looks like he's just like kind of pecking along right here. We saw him moving a little bit more than this at other parts. I don't know if this is the beginning or the end of his jog, but I did love the way he was moving this morning. I'm not sure that this illustrates it so well, but at least you can see this because it's in the light.
Yeah, look, I like a horse that looks sound jogging, which of course he does, but also is willing to do a little bit more and wanting to break into a gallop, having to be pulled back down to a jog by the rider because, you know, it's not time to be doing something like that. He's eager, he looks good, his color's good. Again, he's not a horse that carries a lot of weight like some of the bigger colts that we've seen throughout the year, but his weight looks very good.
Yeah, and again, this is a snapshot of his career. I like to emphasize that, Todd. And I've watched him jog a lot at Los Alamitos, and that is typically him as he starts out his jog in the morning.
Yeah, and, Tom, I think you dropped your phone there on the floor. Don't step on it during the show. Just want to let you know. California Chrome, number 100, also known out at the racetrack. Let's talk about a horse that Tom liked quite a bit that might be a big price in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Candy Boy. We mentioned the last big win for this horse was the Bob Lewis back in the winter at Santa Anita, but you like what this horse is doing in the fall at Santa Anita.
Yeah, I like this work. He was working in company with a maiden claimer, so, you know, he should dispose of this horse fairly easily. But once he did, he quicked up nicely through this line.
He did. Look, this work was at a legitimate distance,
Yep.
had a workmate, finished up fast on the end of the work. All the things you want to see from a horse coming into a big race. When you look back at his form, his trainer John Sadler has tried big races all along, hasn't gotten it done since February. And the question is he just a good workhorse that's always going to give you something like this and fool the trainer into trying big races, or is he coming into something big on Saturday?
Yeah, I like the fact that he gets a chance at 1.25 miles again. I think he's bred for that distance. He looks like he's going to love it. Got annihilated in the Derby. I'm looking forward to it.
One horse we know that likes 1.25 miles is Majestic Harbor. He won the Gold Cup at Santa Anita earlier this year. That was the distance of 1.25 miles for trainer Sean McCarthy. And Majestic Harbor worked a 1/2 mile in 48.3. That was yesterday, and he's a pretty horse. I mean, he's a good horse. I thought he was moving well. Jockey Tyler Bay's up here.
Yeah, this is a horse who, again, had his big work last week. He went in 11.3, 3/4 mile. Tyler Bay's up here. He rides him in the afternoons also. This horse actually switches into his right lead a little early just before coming out of the turn, but to me, he looked very smooth. Tyler never moved on him. I like the work, Tom.
I did too. I don't think you can look any better than this, Donna. I mean, getting across the ground well, never ass. I mean, great stride on this horse. I mean, to me, a horse that's training very well. Been defeated by shared belief in his last two by at least 4 or 5 lengths each time. The question is, can he step up to the plate?
Well, that's the thing. Look, I think one thing you can take away from these work shows is we've talked about it. I think collectively as a group, these horses all look extremely well. It's just a matter on race day if they're good enough. I mean, when you look at Majestic Harbor work, yes, he fits with some of these horses, the major names we're talking about, but then you go to his race record in the afternoon, and he's been well beaten by him.
Man, I tell you what, he looks good coming to the wire, doesn't he?
He certainly does. Yeah, Sean McCarthy got him in top shape. Majestic Harbor working a 1/2 in 48.3.
Yeah, I agree at that point, Simon. If the goal to win the Breeders' Cup Classic is to turn in a 1/2 mile in 48.3, then yeah, Majestic Harbor qualifies. He turned in a great 1/2 mile, 48.3. But at the end of the day, they may be ready, but is their best truly good enough? Let's go from the highlight of older male horses, or 3-year-olds and upward in the male category at the Breeders' Cup Classic, to the Distaff on Friday, which is the big race on that card. This was changed quite a bit with the defection of Beholder out of here. Looks like it could be anyone's race. And let's start with Aat Tapa, who was third in the Zenyatta after a poor start. And Aat Tapa, a horse that was out this morning going 5 furlongs with Jelani Grant aboard.
Yeah, not much to see here. This was early on. Aat Tapa, who'd had a big workout on the 20th of October, 6 furlongs in 1:12-1, just galloping easy here.
Yeah, we watch her gallop here. You know, in her last race, she actually breezed about 5 days before that race, but Brad Free of the Daily Racing Form said that she bled in that last race. We're not going to see her work before the Breeders' Cup this time for this race. And Tom, I'd like to know your thoughts on that, the fact that she bled about a month ago and now we don't see that customary breeze.
So, I mean, it's all about management as a trainer. You want to know what you're going to do with a horse that is a confirmed bleeder and bleeds through Lasix and how to manage that horse up to the race correctly. Look, there have been a lot of good ones that bleed between races that still run their race on the racetrack. So, to me, this is a trainer's job to know what to do with this horse, and I don't question the tactics they're using here. Let's see what happens.
Right, I mean, it's trial and error over the years, and then, of course, there's all different degrees of bleeding, right, Tom? I mean, usually on a scale of 1 through 5, so maybe it was just a minor bleed, but she did bleed through Lasix.
And she did have a pretty tough work back on October 20th. That was in 1:12 flat. I believe Majestic Harbor ended up hooking up into her work, and so she did get a good breeze then, too.
Yeah, and by way of example, let's take a look at Summer Squall before the Preakness going back for some years. Summer Squall bled in a gallop before the Preakness some 4 or 5 days beforehand and still won the Preakness. So there are ways to manage this successfully at times.
And this is what we would term an easy gallop. This would be, I guess the analogy, a decent jog if you're a human being, a nice easy run in the morning. So Aat Tapa moving well despite no more workouts going into the big race.
Donna, let's talk about the top 3-year-old filly in America coming into the distaff. That is Untappable. And when you look at the work side by side, a week apart, the 5 furlongs on October 19th, the half mile on October 26th. What are you seeing?
Yeah, Todd, this is kind of what I've been talking about all morning. You can see on the left-hand side, this is her work from 10:19 where she went 58-3. This was her big move. But on the right-hand side, you can see her work from yesterday. This is Untappable going a half and 50-3. And you can see Carlos Rosas keeps checking his watch on both works, but he's letting her go fast on the one on the left and slowing her down on the one on the right. And this is why we grade these kind of works so different, both in A, because you can tell that the rider is getting exactly what they want, and it's the time. You don't want to see this 58-3 today. You wanted to see that last week, and to me, both works are good, Tom.
They are both good, but they're trying to accomplish two different things, as you say. The one from earlier in the month is trying to get more out of the work than the most recent one. Typically, trainers 2 works out from a race will try to accomplish something more in terms of speed and finish than they will in the work leading up to the race.
It's no different than a professional sporting team, for instance, saying having a game on Saturday, they do their big workout on Tuesday or Wednesday, and they just coast into the game Thursday, Friday. You don't want your big players getting banged up 48 hours before a game, and it's the same with the horses.
Right, you don't want to take them off their game by doing too much too close to the race.
Got it. So that was Untappable. I like the double box there, by the way. That looked good there, Todd.
Well, now it's just a single, but I'm going to walk over to a big board here in just a moment to talk about Ria Antonia, who is part of the distaff and part of Luch Racing Stable. Ron Palucci made a big announcement here on our work show just a couple of days ago. A chance for you to have a once-in-a-lifetime experience at the Breeders' Cup with him, courtesy of him. And it's very simple. His contest works like this. Answer the question, why do you deserve to win a trip to the 2014 Breeders' Cup? Email your answer to luchracingstables@gmail.com. Prize includes airfare, hotel, 2 seats at Ron Palucci's table in the Front Runner restaurant on both Friday and Saturday. And then you get to go with him to the paddock before the Breeders' Cup distaff as Ria Antonia has a chance to be a back-to-back winner in the Breeders' Cup after being moved up via disqualification last year in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Very familiar silks around the country, Luch Racing. Here's some of their highlights.
Lower Power trying to pull off a huge upset here. He's in front at the 8th pole, but now here's Marchman, who's surging on by. And Undrafted coming with a rocketing finish on the far outside. Undrafted is really flying, and he flies by Marchman to win. Undrafted the winner by a length and a half.
Ria Antonia, Sweet Reason just shifted in onto the rail that is coming fast on the inside. They come for home, Sweet Reason. On the outside, the big long shot, Ria Antonia. She's a tiger. Rosalind joining the fray late as well. It's desperate. Ria Antonia, she's a tiger. So close. Down towards the final furlong. Caviar and Champagne, the leader by 2. Pay the Man on the outside in second. Can her game heart carry her home? It's Caviar and Champagne in front, though, who is resolute and determined. Caviar and Champagne, 3 stakes wins in a row.
Our thanks to Mr. P, Ron Palucci, and Luch Racing for their sponsorship of the Works Breeders' Cup 2014, and the best of luck to them as they go for the distaff on Friday of this year's Breeders' Cup with Ria Antonia, trained by Tom Amoss. Let's go back to our public work of the day with Brittany Erden.
Thanks, Todd. Yes, our public work of the day is American Pharaoh. We heard what our analyst had to say. We had 2 A's and a resounding A+ from Simon. Let's see what you guys have to say. Railbird9921 says American Pharaoh gets an A for his work with lead change on cue. Why have a workmate when you dust him like that? Becerra Stable says after watching American Pharaoh on TVG, I give him a stunning A+ with goosebumps. Wow. Dancer's One fan says A+ for American Pharaoh's work, one of the best I've seen. He did it so easy and without being asked. I think he wins this race. All right. It seems like a major consensus here. Golf Dad 313 says A+ for that work. American Pharaoh sitting on a monster effort. Respect for Daredevil and Carpe Diem, but hometown Colt will win. Lastly, we have Dom Savita says American Pharaoh today looked really impressive with a strong gallop out. Rider sat chilly, A-. You still have time to get in all of your thoughts on this, so please send it. #TVGWorks. Give us your letter grade and your analysis for American Pharaoh. Now, not only do we have the analyst talking about the works here, but we have preview shows coming up for you guys to get all of the insight. Championship Friday is coming up on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and we also have a Championship Saturday preview show for you guys, headlined by the Breeders' Cup Classic, which will be 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time on Friday. Don't miss out on that.
And the Works is made possible by the generous support of sponsors like Castleton Lions, standing Gio Ponte, winner of 3 Eclipse Awards, 7 Grade 1s. He was the $6 million horse. Brilliantly consistent, consistently brilliant. Gio Ponte. One of the most exciting races over the 2 days of the Breeders' Cup is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, made even more unique by the layout at Santa Anita, the about distance of 6.5 furlongs down the hill, and a horse who came oh so close last year to winning this race, second beat and a half length after opening up a big lead turning for home. Renes Got Zip is back, and we look at Renes Got Zip, her work Sunday at Santa Anita on the turf, going 4 furlongs, the Candyman, Edwin Maldonado, aboard.
Yeah, who rides her in the afternoon. Couple of comments I want to make about Renes Got Zip. One, she trains at a training center, San Luis Rey, about an hour and a half south of Santa Anita. And the second thing, she's only ever run twice on the turf, and it was in this race the last 2 years. She finished 3rd 2 years ago and 2nd. Those are only 2 efforts on the grass. And thirdly, she's working without blinkers here, a piece of equipment that she normally runs in each and every race.
Yeah, we already know this filly can work fast. She's had 2 bullet works in this past month alone. They're just looking for a maintenance move here. But I do love the fact that she's relaxed and yet waiting for a cue from her rider and responds enthusiastically, Tom.
I'm with you. It's an easy move, very, very nice stride. You'll notice when she passes the wire that she kind of shuts it down quickly in her gallop out, but that could be a characteristic of her. I don't hold it against her. This is a nice work. I give it a B.
Yeah, I gave it a B-. Donna?
I gave this an A.
Hey, Renes Got Zip worked a half mile on the turf in 48-2 for trainer Peter Miller.
Centio was working on Sunday morning at Santa Anita over the turf, 5 furlongs with Felipe Guerrero aboard.
For trainer Gary Mandela. Remember we saw this horse work last week, and a big, long striding horse. You can see he's working with a set of rings there, or what we call a ring martingale, attached to the reins there, and we've talked about that a lot this week on the work show. And again, look, this is a big, long striding horse. To me, I just wonder how he's going to handle the downhill configuration. And as I said last week, I don't think he has that burst of speed. He doesn't have a turn of foot.
That would be wrong to criticize his running style, because Todd immediately jumped on that last time and said, oh no, these kind of horses win. Well, they may win, but a horse like Centio, who's moving very well right now, albeit at a slow pace, is going to have to overcome all the traffic of a very big field going 6.5 furlongs. This is the shortest he'll ever run in his career at 6.5 furlongs, and to me, a tough task.
Yeah, and I think we have consensus here. I mean, the fact is he's coming off of 7 furlong and 1 mile races, shortening up to 6.5 furlongs, and he doesn't appear from either of the works we've seen to have the turn of foot he's going to need to be able to close on these horses and the kind of pace they're going to set in front of him.
The one thing I will say in Todd's defense, look, it is well known out here, horses that come out of mile races that cut back down the hill do exceptionally well. But the profile you're looking for is horses that show speed at a mile. Those front runners. A horse like Obviously, who we've seen very great, he would do extremely well down the hill. Those are the types of horses. He's a horse that sits off the pace at a mile. He's just going to be outfooted early and won't quicken up late. But Todd, you were right.
Take that, Todd T.
You were right, Todd.
Okay, well, I'll take your works horse. You guys like Renes Got Zip, best finish versus Centio. That's fair, right?
Sure.
Done.
Okay, all right. So
I did not agree to that.
I'll follow up next year with you in Lexington. We'll see how that side wager turned out. Okay, coming up next is Sweet Swap, preparing for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. This is a look at Sunday morning at Santa Anita. Unlike the previous works on the turf, this one's on the dirt, 6 furlongs. Lupe Lopez up.
Yeah, Sweet Swap just sitting on the outside there with the stablemate. And I tell you what, Sweet Swap disposes of the stablemate very early in this work, about halfway through. 6 furlong workout. At about the 3/8 pole, Sweet Swap says bye-bye to the stablemate. And I thought did everything right here. When asked, quick and nicely.
I didn't like the work. You liked it a lot better than I did. I thought he went faster earlier than he should have. He didn't finish as well as he should have. This is a horse coming off of a 7-month layoff, and he needs to tout me at this point that he's ready to run the race of his life. I don't see that from this work, and we'll see more through the stretch, Tom.
Look, I normally agree with Simon and the way of works go, but I'm with you, Donna. I mean, this horse that hasn't run since April, you pointed that out, so he needs a big move here. He needs to show that he is ready to run. And although he does dispose of his workmate, I don't see this horse quicken down the lane. I see him get a little late in the work, particularly the last 16th of a mile, and that to me is a horse that's trying to catch up in fitness to make a race, and that worries me.
Right here you see the rider go to the left-handed whip. This is not what I'm looking for in the final race off of a 7-month layoff going into the toughest race of his life. I don't like anything about this work, to be honest.
Grades, Donna?
D.
I gave it a C, which means I'm not using him in my picks.
Okay, I gave him a B-. I just don't think he's good enough. I mean, I didn't mind. I thought the work was okay, but as far as talent, I just don't think he's good enough to win a race like this.
Next up in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, Marchman, and this goes to Saturday morning at Santa Anita, a half mile on the turf, and the Raging Cajun Kent DeSormo aboard.
Yeah, this is the first time Kent DeSormo's been aboard this horse, and it's the first time that brother Keith has worked this horse. This is a big barn change from Beck Calhoun to Keith DeSormo. And the work for me, a half mile in 50, I wasn't that impressed, to be honest with you.
You know, so here's the deal. I know this horse from the winner at the fairgrounds, and he is a legitimate horse and a legitimate contender in this race, if he's on his game. The question is, when you watch this work, is he on his game? To me, he's not. He's not doing a lot early in the work. He should have more energy, and he should quicken when called upon down the lane. I don't see it.
I'm with you. He's a big, beautiful, imposing horse, but at the 16th pole, you're going to see Kent DeSormo call upon him, and I would have liked to have seen just a little bit better reaction from him. Tom, right here's where you're talking about. You see Kent start to lower his body, ass right there. You do not see this horse quicken his stride, though.
I mean, Kent is throwing crosses at him. It means he's kind of pulling the bit back up into the horse's mouth, and we get no response there. So I'm not expecting good grades here. Donna?
I did give the work a B+. It's just not encouraging me for the race.
I gave the work a D. I don't like the work, and he's not a horse that I'm going to use in my selection.
No, C+ at best. There are the grades on the screen there. 5 for 16 lifetime. Disappointing effort from Marchman.
We turn our attention from one sprint on the turf to another on the main track. The Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint on Saturday. Here's a look at your pre-entries. Another wide open race, it would appear on the surface. Let's start with a 3-year-old filly who took the defining race for 3-year-old fillies in the sprint division. That would be the Test. Sweet Reason, her most recent start was second in the cotillion to Untappable. Here is Sweet Reason working this morning out at Santa Anita, and this was going half furlongs with Jorge Sanchez aboard.
I've been anxious to watch this filly work. She's extremely talented. I think she's very good at one turn, and we're watching this for the first time. And it looks like the exercise rider was anticipating her to be aggressive from the get-go and just trying to make that transition into the workout nice and smooth.
Just a little bit of back history. This filly came out of the cotillion last time out with an injury to her eye, so she missed a little bit of training in between races. Her last work was a bullet 3/8 and 34 and 3 at Belmont. She galloped out in 48, and Leah Giamardi said that work was the work that told her she's ready to go to the Breeders' Cup. So this is only her second work since then, and I do love the way she's moving, Tom.
And real quick, to that eye injury, Tom, can you see the one cup over that right eye?
It's got to be the right eye.
That would be
Yeah.
the
So
right eye.
Protecting the eye
Yeah.
for the work. I doubt they'll do that for the race, but if they do, so be it. She's practicing with the equipment that she might run in. Down the lane here, looks good. Nudged on, asked upon here, showing finish. Good urging by the rider, but the horse is responding.
And there is Sweet Reason galloping out there a half mile. What was the final time, Joaquin?
Our clocker, Donald Harris, got her going off for quarter in 22 and 4. 4 furlongs, 46 and 4.
4 furlongs, 46 and 4. So what do you make of that time, having seen the work?
It looked like that kind of work. You know, I looked at Donna, and we both thought it would be around 46 seconds.
Actually, Tom indicated to me with his hands 46 was his guess. I give it an A.
A for Donna. Okay, here's Stonetastic, also in the same race, another 3-year-old filly by Ms. Mast, who's very, very quick for trainer Kelly Brain. And as I watched this work, I thought she was very aggressive. She works like she runs. And to me, it looked like the rider, it was a controlled runoff, if you like. The rider's just trying to get around there in one piece.
Yeah, so she's off the rail here because probably on the rail, we're talking about a work that would be too quick going into the race, but looks good doing it, aggressive like she runs. Speed horses are typically impressive in their workouts. This is no different from a lot of speed horses. She's working very well.
She's been pretty one-dimensional in all of her races, and she's pretty one-dimensional here. He just tries to slow her down throughout, sometimes not so successfully. I give it a B.
And as a rider, Donna, in that situation, you don't want to move too much, be busy in the saddle, because that could kind of light the filly up and get her to run off.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah.
Joe did everything he could.
So good job there. Nice final time there for a filly that's very, very quick and probably be pressing the pace early.
The Works gives you an edge to win over 2 days at the Breeders' Cup, but TVG has even more for you. Exclusive to TVG account holders, it's the TVG Toolkit. Exclusive handicapping products like our friends at Timeform US. We got Top Stars bios, TVG Pro Picks. So much available for you. It's the Breeders' Cup Toolkit, but you must be a TVG account holder. And if you own a thoroughbred, you should have a Calbred in your stable. It pays to own a California bred. Just ask everyone at the California Thoroughbred Breeders Association. Top Calbreds like California Chrome and Big Mocker will have a big say in the outcome of the 2 days at the Breeders' Cup.
Social media is taking over these days. Make sure to like us on Facebook, TVG Network, and follow us on Twitter at TVG. And if you want to get involved with our public work of the day, use the hashtag TVGWork. More of the works to come on TVG when we get back.
Welcome back to The Works, presented by Remington Park. And if you're thinking about an opportunity for your horse, there's a huge one coming up at Remington Park on Sunday, December 14th. It's the $250,000 Remington Park Springboard Mile. The Works Breeders' Cup 2014, presented by Remington Park, continues here on TVG. And we check in once again with Brittany Urton.
Thanks, Todd. We have heard resounding positive remarks for American Pharaoh, the Breeders' Cup juvenile contender. Let's see what the rest of you have to say and if it's in line. American Pharaoh gets an A grade from me. He looked effortless while his workmate was losing ground and running hard. Larry Zappi, the Eye, says the American Pharaoh work was an A grade today. He has so much left in the tank for Breeders' Cup 14 Saturday. Can't wait to see him run. Jockey Agent Lou says horse worked thoroughly professionally with plenty left in the tank. A+, Baffert makes a difference. Mark of the Z's. Jake Ballas, who is no stranger to the Breeders' Cup this year, sending out Cigar straight in the Breeders' Cup Classic, says American Pharaoh's work today was very, very good. A+ work. Daredevil and Carpe Diem will give him a run for his money. And lastly, we have Justin Zai of Zayat Stables, owner of American Pharaoh, says American Pharaoh work's been getting better week by week. So excited for Saturday, praying all the horses stay healthy. A+ work for AP. Agree, we want all the horses to stay healthy coming up into this Breeders' Cup, and best of luck to all of them. Thank you guys for your responses. This has been a great, great edition of the public work of the day for American Pharaoh. Social media, as I said, is taking over. You don't even need to leave your house. You can bet straight from your iPhone betting app now with even more features. You can download it on the App Store, live video, results, free handicapping info, and race alerts. Not only do we have an iPhone app, but we debuted our iPad app. Evolve your game with TVG. It's America's first fully integrated horse racing betting app for the iPad. It's fast, easy, and complete. With so many features on it, make sure to go to the App Store right now and download your TVG, iPad, and iPhone app.
Brittany, great job, and you're exactly right. Social media, the perfect complement to the brick and mortar of the must-have conventional television coverage. Take a look at the pre-entries for the Breeders' Cup Mile, changed dramatically by the absence of Wise Dan. I'm wondering who even goes favored in this race. Certainly Tom's Tribute is a horse that has done well the last 2 starts, having taken the Eddie Reed at Del Mar and the Del Mar Mile.
Yeah, Jim Cassidy, has done a great job with Tom's Tribute. We've seen his work last week on 10-19 when the exercise rider was aboard. Mike Smith, who's had more success aboard Tom's Tribute, if you look through the past performance, than any other rider. I think he makes a difference. He knows him. Again, this is a horse that can get worked up and aggressive in company, and I like the way he looks. I mean, he's relaxed, he's off the bridle, and he goes through his paces.
And I think this is a perfect work to watch the jockey's body style and the way the horse responds. You can see Mike high in the saddle early, and as the work goes through, he gets lower, 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 and the horse picks it up as he goes along, Tom.
Yeah, and it's an easy kind of work, does everything right, and he went well today.
He certainly did. I mean, look, he's not a flashy workhorse, and we put him in comparison to a horse like, obviously, yesterday, that's on the bridle, aggressive, and he goes around there very, very easy. This is a different type of horse, a different type of running style, and we're seeing that in the workout here.
So what are the characteristics that make this a good work? Mike asked just a little bit turn it for home there. Tom's Tribute is very willing to do what Mike wants to do. Just a little bit of a hand ride to the wire, good extension of stride, the things you want to see.
And you can see how Mike's body is lower right now, and Tom's Tribute responds accordingly.
And you can see he's finishing up nicely, and as soon as Mike crosses the wire, he's going to go ahead and stand up right about here, and that gives the signal for Tom's Tribute to say, your work's done. And he did it in 1 minute and 4/5. So B's across the board there, B+ for Donna.
A lot of the disagreements that we have in the show happen organically. It's amazing some of the things that get said, and it deserves a response. But we wanted to set aside some time for each of our analysts to call out one of the other analysts, or maybe something that's on their mind in our With All Due Respect segment. And we saved the best for last. On our last work show for Breeders' Cup 2014, Tom Amoss, it's your turn on With All Due Respect.
Well, I'm going to move away from the show a little bit and talk about something that's going on in our industry right now, and that is the number of medication violations we're seeing from jurisdiction to jurisdiction with trainers. And when they're reported, and they're being reported a lot, the public is not differentiating between guys that are trying to cheat to win and realistic medication violations, which are just mistakes in the barn. It's all about finding a rope and getting a tree and hanging everybody from the same branch. And that is unfair. In today's testing, we now deal with nanograms and picograms. That is billionths of a gram and trillionths of a gram to find medication violations. I'm all for tough rules and getting rid of the cheaters in our industry. But I am more about fairness and not prejudging someone's guilt before he's gone to trial.
And you're talking about sort of errors that are made in the barn, using legal medications with certain overages, correct, Tom?
That is correct. So these are things that are approved, that we're allowed to use in the barn, and maybe a mistake being made in the barn where some small amount of medication is found. Think about it. 1 nanogram being a billionth of a gram and that being a positive test has nothing to do with the outcome of a race, and it's an approved therapeutic drug for the horse. That's just not fair.
And it's worth noting that poppy seeds have morphine in them. At least they test positive for morphine. So if a groom has poppy seeds from a donut or a muffin he's eaten and hands the horse a peppermint, he could possibly test positive for morphine by nanograms.
And when that occurred in California, you saw a quick rush to justice against those trainers. And then, of course, later on, our bad. They really weren't guilty. They were trying to do the right thing. They did nothing wrong. You know, the public and the media specifically needs to differentiate between these and treat the accused fairly.
Well, I'd just like to jump in here and say something. You know, a lot of it is our testing is not where it should be. The money allocated towards testing at the state level just isn't there. And that's the problem when budgets start to shrink. They look at that and then the testing doesn't keep up. And so you end up with a lot of these situations. Think of all the money that California poured into synthetic racetracks. What if they took those millions of dollars and put it towards the testing facilities instead?
No, that's a very good point you bring up. And I think to echo Tom's sentiment, even if we get the testing in line, it's how we disseminate the information from the lab to the public. Because right now, if you have, say, a butte overage, you're getting treated the same way as a trainer that's got a steroid overage that is illegal now.
And jurisdictions are really trying to beat one another to show they're the toughest jurisdiction. Nothing wrong with being tough. but being fair is very important.
Yeah, and a level playing field would be nice, Todd. The same rules everywhere. We wish for that.
With all due respect, well done, Tom Amoss. He's not just a pretty face, he's also very thoughtful. If you're thinking of a stallion, you can't miss out on Star Guitar. Star Guitar's first foals have arrived, and his babies are absolutely gorgeous. TVG is the only place where you can get guaranteed 5-2 on shared belief. Most likely one of your shortest price favorites over the 2 days at the Breeders' Cup. Yet you can get them at 5-2 through our mobile platform, but you have to be a TVG account holder. And again, all the details are at tvg.com. Let's get some details on international runners for the Breeders' Cup with Simon Bray.
Okay, pay close attention to the international runners. After all, it is the Breeders' Cup World Thoroughbred Championships. No different this year, with 38 pre-entries coming from overseas. In its 30-year history, the Breeders' Cup has provided 527 runners from foreign countries, a huge number in the world's biggest stage for thoroughbred racing, 527. Of those 527, there have been 51 horses that have won Breeders' Cup races. That's 10%. So pretty good percentage record there. Of those 51 races, 43 have been won on the turf, a surface that Europeans have dominated worldwide. The percentage to hit the board, pretty good, 25%. So from a wagering standpoint, pay close attention to those international runners. They've only blanked in 4 years in the 30-year history, and most recent being back in 2007.
Let's go back to a grading standpoint and look at some of the prominent works, the positive views of these works.
Yeah, Golden Sense, I think, was a standout for many of us on day one. A+ from me. Tom, you gave that a B, and Donna, you thought Golden Sense was good. So, a consensus discussion here. Overall, I keep bringing this up. Do you think this was a good group of horses? I thought one of the best we've seen as far as the way they move, the way they look.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a really strong group, and we've got you can just look at the past performances and see we have a strong group coming into all the Breeders' Cup races.
I agree with that totally. So, and when you're looking at these grades, sometimes finding a horse that didn't work well and one you can throw out in a race in your betting is just as important as finding one you like.
I agree with that, and I think that's the premise of the works is to look at horses that aren't doing as well going into the big race, because most of these have been working well. They all look pretty much similar, apart from the last two on the screen. They're Tis Midnight and Marchman, of course, not impressing our panel. So I thought overall, Todd, a very good group. It's just a matter of whether they're good enough to transfer, as we talked about, that form from the morning to the afternoon.
Hey, speaking of good groups, I know we have a lot of fun on the show. We rib each other throughout the hour plus.
We
but I have
Tom.
to say, you guys are absolutely the best. TVG was the first to ever do a work show, and they still remain the best because of this analyst team. Simon Bray, Tom Amoss, Donna Barton Brothers, you're amazing. Brittany, welcome to the works.
Thank
you did a
you so
wonderful
much.
job.
You are the best.
Oh, you're very kind. I do want to thank the people who make this possible. Our sponsors, Remington Park, Luch Racing, California Thoroughbred Breeders Association, Star Guitar. The first foals have arrived, and they look beautiful. And Castleton Lions, home of Gio Ponte, and then also the racetracks that helped us out with the workout footage, Santa Anita, Keeneland, the New York Racing Association, Los Alamitos, home of California Chrome. Our spotter team, led by John Mooses, out there with Joaquin Jaime at Santa Anita. Great job. TVG Operations, you're amazing putting all this together. Long hours. And then TVG Graphics, mentioning Eric Pastrano, our director, Jerry Hollis, and the working tirelessly man, our boss, Kevin Grigsby. He's been putting this together for many months. Outstanding job. Biggest thank you to you for watching the works. I'm Todd Schrupp. Have a brilliant Breeders' Cup coming up Friday and Saturday.